There was a time you could not escape a certain name on these Kenyan social media streets. That name was XTIAN DELA. The guy was a force to reckon with in the digital world, and he achieved the unexpected. So how did he go from being a digital king to being caught up in Ponzi schemes? Stick around because in today's episode, we look at the rise and fall of Kenya's once biggest social media influencer. With that being said, welcome to the Raw Pod with me, Renee Were. Let's get real and raw. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind you to follow me on my socials at were_Renee on Twitter, on Instagram at _Renee_Were, and on TikTok, I go by the same name, Renee_Were. You can also find the Rawpod on Instagram at the_Rawpod. Also, don't forget to share this episode. Don't forget to hit me up on my socials and share content ideas and anything that you'd like me to cover. And I'd also like to say that this is the first installment of the Rise and Fall series. So, let's get into it. XTIAN DELA, whose real name is Arthur Mandela, was born on 18th February 1990 in Ngara, Nairobi. He started his education at Liki School and moved to Moi High School, Kabarak. XTIAN DELA then joined the University of Nairobi, where he graduated in 2009 from the School of Business. Imagine that's all there is on his background. There isn't really much you can find online about his childhood or his background, and even when he's being interviewed, he really doesn't go that deep into his childhood, so that's practically it. XTIAN DELA has tried his hand at everything. I honestly doubt whether there's a job he hasn't done. In a 2020 interview with current Langata MP Jalango on his YouTube show, Bonga na Jalas, XTIAN revealed that he was once a staunch Christian. You know, the type that was very active in church and led the praise and worship team? Yeah, apparently that was him. At some point, he even attempted a gospel music career. He then goes on to claim that the song was a huge hit. And I don't know about you, but I honestly don't remember hearing that song anywhere. But you know, he maisha ni kujichocha, and one thing he's good at is kujichocha, because he went on and on about how that song was very huge and very popular. But I don't remember seeing him anywhere on my screens, nor do I remember hearing him anywhere on the radio. Anyway, I did a little digging and managed to find the song. First of all, the song isn't even his. It's by a lady known as Naomi Nyongesa called Shikilia Yesu. Sure, XTIAN appears on the video, but he's not even listed as an artist on the song. Second, he only had 2 lines on the song. 2 lines. And I watched the song and it feels like it was done huko 2012, 2014, 2011, you know, the early 2010s. And he really doesn't do much in the song. But the way he was talking in that interview with Jalango, you'd think that that song was actually his. Because he literally sings 2 lines. He's basically a video vixen. And it's like the artist was like, you know what? Let me just give my video vixens some time to shine. Here, go sing these 2 lines for me. Yeah, just go watch that song. Watch it for yourselves. You'll see what I'm saying. And I have to admit, I admire his delusion. Maybe that's one of the ways he's been able to make things work out for him. XTIAN claims that the hypocrisy he witnessed in the gospel industry is what led him to eventually opt out of it. He gave an example of a very famous gospel DJ who he claimed was drinking at a gig. I think we can tell who this is without even mentioning names. Anyway, the hypocrisy made him leave the gospel. That's his experience, and after all, who are we to dismiss it, right? But I also think 2 things can be true. He couldn't handle the hypocrisy, and he wasn't really talented enough to make it in the gospel industry, because remember, you are competing against people like Willie Paul and Daddy Owen and Bahati, and that's what you thought that's the industry you really thought you could make it in. Anyway, now that we have that out of the way, let's get to what actually made him famous: social media. XTIAN started out on Facebook, where he managed a number of pages, including inspirational pages and meme pages. The pages had become very popular to the extent of getting over 1 million likes. This is all from a Jeff Koinange Live, or JKL, interview back in 2015. At the time of the interview, he says he had been online for 8 years, so that means he had started this thing in 2007. Imagine, there are people among us who are in Facebook in 2007. Can you imagine that? He used the popularity he gained on Facebook to grow on Twitter. He would advertise his Twitter page to his fans on the different Facebook pages he had by urging them to follow it. So by the time he was officially joining Twitter, he had nearly 60,000 followers waiting on his next move, which is a genius thing if you ask me, honestly. So he joined Twitter and struggled to fit in because he felt like there was a lot of segmentation in terms of users. Basically, it's like people had already grouped themselves, so if you were new, it was very easy for you to get confused and not know where you fit in, and also not know who to follow and interact with. So you eventually got bored and left. DELA noticed this and he decided to stand in the gap. He figured since he already had the numbers, he could use that to help other users gain followers and not feel left out. And thus, the XTIAN DELA follow train was born. The rule was simple. XTIAN circulated a hashtag known as the XTIAN DELA follow train, and anyone who wanted to gain followers would simply tweet using it. If anyone saw you tweet using the hashtag, they would follow you and you must then follow them back. It was a quick and sure way to gain followers. This gain train is what propelled him to fame. He had already made a name for himself on Facebook and Instagram, but his Twitter influence is what made him climb higher, because now he was huge on all three of the most used social media platforms in Kenya at the time. So how did this guy change the Kenyan social media landscape? There was a time he was the most followed Kenyan on Twitter, even beating veteran bigwigs such as Robert Alai and Cyprian Nyakundi in terms of online influence. He is also responsible for being one of the first, if not the first people, to optimize content to increase followers. The XTIAN DELA follower train model was the first of its kind on the Kenyan social media space and was later adopted to other platforms such as Instagram, whereby Instagram socialites began using the same concept to help their followers and other users gain a following. I don't know if you guys remember this, but sometime back in 2015-16 Nahuko, on Instagram, if you wanted to gain a following and if you wanted your posts to get more likes, you would post a picture and then caption the post with so many hashtags, with so many socialites' names and all that. And from that, you would, be able to grow your following. So yeah, that actually came from XTIAN DELA. He is also behind some of the most prominent hashtags, such as hashtag Bring Back Our KDF Soldiers, a message to the government to recall the soldiers sent to service in Somalia after the Mpeketoni attacks that left 60 dead back in 2014. The hashtag was so popular that it grabbed the attention of BBC, who did a story on it. The framing of the hashtag was a smart move because it echoed the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls, which brought global attention to the kidnapping of nearly 200 Nigerian schoolgirls by Boko Haram in April that same year. XTIAN DELA himself admitted in the BBC article that he chose a hashtag similar to the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls because he knew the world would pick it up. In the same article, he went on about, holding the government accountable and taking action, probably a sign that he would soon venture into politics. His influence on these platforms was undeniable and people started to take notice. He was getting brand deals left, right and center and even joined Jeff Koinange Live on KTN as the head of social and digital media. So back then, JKL used to air on KTN before it was acquired by Citizen. Back when it was actually interesting. He joined Nation FM, formerly known as Easy FM. in September 2015 as a radio presenter hosting the popular Saturday morning show, The Detox, alongside DJ Exclusive. 2014 to 2018 were really great years for him. You could actually say that was him at his peak. During this time, he was nominated for several social media awards, of which he won not only in Kenya, but also the larger African continent. 2015 was definitely his year. In that year, he managed to scoop 3 awards: Best Twitter Personality in Africa, the 2015 African Blogger Awards, Corporate Social Media Personality of the Year, the Jumia Kenya Glamour Awards, and Twitter Personality of the Year in the Kenya Buzz Awards. He was the only African social media influencer to take part in Barcelona's Time to Play campaign in 2017. So he partnered with the Barcelona Football Club in the Time to Play Experience campaign that saw 22 winners from across 22 countries across the world fly to Camp Nou in Barcelona, Spain to have the FC Barcelona experience, which is a crazy, crazy achievement if you think. Because imagine being the only African influencer to be selected to take part in a global campaign. That's huge. During this time, he was also killing it on YouTube and was among the most popular vloggers in Kenya at the time. Apart from social media, XTIAN was getting other job opportunities. His presenting job at Nation FM in 2015 wasn't his last. In 2018, he hosted a hip-hop show on NRG radio dubbed The Throttle. The following year, XTIAN DELA joined the morning breakfast duo of Jalango and Kamenegoro at Kiss 100 as its producer. Then came the Toboa series, where he highlighted confessions by young people on their sexual exploits through his Instagram stories. The series was an instant hit among Kenyan youth, of course, because, anytime sex is mentioned, people get excited. And once again, the social media guru had worked his magic, as the series grew his Instagram following, enabling him to hit 1 million followers afterwards. DELA decided to take it to the next level by introducing the Toboa app and website where people would be able to freely share their confessions and seek advice. The confessions had developed from mostly being centered on sex to serious issues such as mental health. XTIAN DELA was riding high on social media fame, and things seemed to be going pretty well for him. But, just like every other celebrity, Mr. Arthur Mandela is just as polarizing and did not shy away from controversy. Also, just like every other person at the top, his downfall was somewhere waiting for him. So, allow me to take you back a bit to 2015. This was the time when XTIAN was at the top of his game. But he wasn't the only one. A journalist known as Larry Madowo was also killing it in his career and was hosting one of the most popular TV talk shows in the country, known as The Trend. The Trend, which is surprisingly still on air, is a show that talks about trending topics, mostly on social media, just as the name suggests. So it made sense having someone like XTIAN come on the show. Now, what happens when you have two people who are both at the top of their game in the same room at the same time? Egos clash. And that's exactly what I think happened when XTIAN was a panelist at the show. I stumbled across this article by Gafla that reported on what happened between the two. According to the article, Madowo explained the events in a private blog he used to manage back then. Madowo claims that XTIAN had appeared on the show as a guest panelist twice. The last time he was on the show, Madowo said that XTIAN put him on the spot while they were on air for not having his phone number. Madowo shot back, and I quote, "I don't need your number because my producers do." He then finishes by stating that they never invited him back, meaning he was banned from the show. And this is what I think happened. I think it was just miscommunication on both sides. Probably XTIAN was just joking. He probably didn't mean what he said, and Madowo probably also took it the wrong way. So I think this was just a case of miscommunication on both sides. But like I said before, I feel like egos clashed because at that time, these were two people who were both at the top of their respective careers. So, egos have to clash. Egos always have to clash. That same year, an audio recording surfaced online exposing famous blogger Cyprian Nyakundi and his then sidekick XTIAN DELA as crooks for trying to extort 50 million shillings from Bidco to kill an incriminatory story. Mador, through his blog, first broke the story that led Cyprian to suing him for defamation. The case was later squashed by the court. Maybe Mador was onto something, because that wasn't the last time DELA had his name mentioned in questionable business ventures. It was also not the last time he was beefing with anyone. We are now in 2020. Thanks to some contagious virus, we are all indoors where we spend most of our days rotting away online. At the same time, a lot of people had turned to the internet to make money, and as usual, our beloved social media guru wasn't left behind. DELA started Club COVID, an online show he broadcast daily through his Instagram live from midnight to 4 a.m. The show was basically a twerk fest where ladies would request to go live with him and display their twerking skills in exchange for a shot at stardom and money. You really just had to be there for Club COVID. What a time. I'm not about to sit here and act like I didn't indulge, because me and my nosy self, who always wants to know what's going on, of course, I partook in the forbidden, the forbidden sites. And I think to this day, I am traumatized because the shenanigans that ladies were doing on that platform. There was one time a girl put Vim on her ass. Surely, Vim kwa matako. Come on now. Chelsea, come on now. Like, are you not scared of UTIs? Are you not scared of your pH being thrown off? And of course, there was Shakila, who kickstarted a whole career from that. And I think we can all remember what she did. I don't even think I have the courage to talk about it here. You just had to be there to witness that. But you know what? Apart from the ladies' shenanigans, something that also made Club COVID interesting was the comments. The comments while the ladies were performing. They were really funny. And XTIAN DELA's overdramatic facial expressions. And something else that really used to also get me was how he'd announce the amount of money that was coming in. Like, that's when you know we have some very horny people on this planet. Hey, yeah. That was a time. It was a time. This man, I don't think there's anyone else who's achieved what he achieved with Club COVID. Because this man really had over 35,000 people joining his Instagram live from midnight to 4 a.m. He was keeping people awake from midnight to 4 a.m. Watching shenanigans. Over 35,000 Kenyans. Tuko tu hapo tunaangalia. And others are abroad. Like, that's influence. That's influence, if you ask me. And to this day, I don't think there's anyone who's been able to top that number on Instagram Live. Maybe you can educate me if I'm wrong, but hey, my goodness, Club COVID, what a time. What a time. In the same interview, XTIAN highlights how the show changed lives, and it did. Like I said previously, from that show, we were introduced to the likes of Shakila, who's been able to build a career of her own. And something I also liked about that show was it wasn't just about ladies twerking. It would start off, with different kinds of people just showcasing their different talents. So if you had any sort of talent, whether it was singing, acrobatics, dancing, you'd join and be given a chance to showcase your talent. So I like that it was inclusive. Everyone had a place where they'd fit in. XTIAN says that he made 700K in one night, and that the highest a participant has made in one night is over 200,000. Imagine, 200,000 in one night. The highest a participant has made overall since the show began is nearly 500K. Can you imagine? 700,000 in one night, all from facilitating. All you have to do is facilitate for people to, do their thing and sit back, relax, and enjoy. And 700,000 is made. But Not everyone was a fan of the show, and XTIAN would soon find out when he was slapped with a lawsuit by 3 angry parents over the show's content. This was in mid-April, just a few weeks after Club COVID had begun. The court ordered him to cease and desist from broadcasting the content, but XTIAN ni nani? Of course he refused. Apart from concerned parents, there was also talk over how XTIAN was exploiting women through Club COVID, which is another conversation on its own and for another day. Things only got worse for DELA, and the following month, he was summoned by DCI detectives. Legal battles were fought, and thanks to his team, the blogger was able to get out of trouble. But Club COVID was never quite the same. The show quickly lost its source and became irrelevant and soon died a natural death. XTIAN DELA soon found himself in more trouble when he decided to go live on Instagram with his newfound socialite Shakila. In the live, Shakila confessed that she had slept with over 7 Kenyan male celebrities. She even went ahead and name-dropped them. Of those mentioned, gospel artist Ringtone and football player Victor Wanyama were the ones who showed public outrage, with the latter threatening to take legal action. But you know what? Even though Shakila has a notorious past of clout chasing, I actually think that she may not have been lying completely. I feel like there was some truth to what she said, because we know how male celebrities move. These Kenyan ones, kwanza, hawa wetu hawa. They're very famous for being promiscuous. So she may have not been completely lying, because people are always going to want to save their image and reputation, which I don't blame them for. I mean, you've worked hard only for someone to come and ruin it with statements. But I still feel that somewhere in Shakila's hearts of hearts, she was not completely lying. Kuna kaukweli hapo. Now that Club COVID was done, it was time for our beloved social media veteran to find something that would make him great again. And what do celebrities in Kenya do when they want to remain relevant? Join politics. In May 2021, XTIAN announced that he would be vying for the Westlands constituency parliamentary seat. His bid was not received very positively, and he caught a lot of heat from Kenyans online, with many doubting his abilities. I don't blame them. I mean, you're going up against people like Wanyonyi. Are you being serious right now? A few months down the line, XTIAN revealed in an article by Capital FM that he was contemplating quitting politics because of the bullying he was receiving online and offline. As if that wasn't enough, later that year, he was accused of conning clients after he was linked with a car dealership known as Next Wheels Automat. In an expose by Edgar Obare, the company was accused of not delivering even after receiving cash for the cars which they claimed to sell. XTIAN distanced himself from the company and further accused them of hiding financial information from him and not getting paid after working for them for 2 years. However, the damage was already done, and these accusations probably ruined his political credibility, if he had any to begin with. 2022 didn't begin very well for XTIAN. Just when he had hit the 1 million follower milestone on Instagram, his account was blocked and his popular Toboa series flagged due to its explicit content. Then he officially quit politics. DELA gave 3 reasons. First, he realized he was too broke to finance his political ambitions. Second, he felt that Kenyans weren't actually ready for change. And finally, cyberbullying had gotten to him. A few months into the year, XTIAN revealed that he would quit social media, the very thing that kickstarted his stardom. This was after a fan asked him through his More XTIAN DELA page on Instagram what happened to his Toboa series. According to XTIAN, people betrayed him when they decided to report his account for doing hurtful personal stories. He further explained that he was done with that life and was focusing on his personal business. He also suggested his intention to hand over the social media job to someone else. The following month of February, XTIAN opened up on his struggle with depression. In a Twitter post, he said his life was in danger and the only thing that was giving him hope was his then 4-month-old baby, whom he had welcomed with his girlfriend, a video vixen by the name Fatma Bunch, in October of 2021. Additionally, XTIAN revealed that his websites were hacked by a Jumbo Pay member of staff and made a transaction that cost him more than 350K. Jumbo Pay is an online financial platform where you can pay for services or send money for particular services. So 2 of DELA's websites were linked with the platform. The websites in question are a platform known as followers.co.ke, a digital marketing service, and crowdproperty.co.ke, which hosts his crowdfunding real estate business. On confronting the Jumbo Pay CEO, DELA alleges that he threatened his life. The matter was handled in court around April of last year, but till now there have been no updates from XTIAN on the case. The year is 2022. Everyone's in the Christmas spirit and getting ready to usher in the new year. By this time, XTIAN DELA is just a faint memory in most netizens' minds. That's until he decides to expose content creator The Pluto as a scammer on his podcast known as Tukosesh. The podcast, which mainly runs on YouTube, centers on mental health and is hosted by XTIAN and his girlfriend Fatma. In the 3-part episode, XTIAN accuses The Pluto of participating in scams, claiming that he does not get money from creating content as he says. He also listed several scams that The Pluto is allegedly involved in. As I listened to the episode, what I gathered is that the two go way back. Not way back like Kitambo, but XTIAN claims to have known The Pluto before his career took off and that he showed him the ropes of how to market his content on social media. It was also at this time that XTIAN had chosen him to be his political strategist when he was trying to enter politics. The reason for this was because of The Pluto's background in student leadership when he was at JQuat. You know what? This is just jokes. Because this is the reason you gave. This is why you chose him as your political strategist. Because he was a student leader at JQuat. Not even UON. You know, UON, the one that has a long history of very capable student leaders who sometimes challenge the government, and some of them are actually in government, you know, not UON. Because he was a student leader at JQuat. No shade to JQuat, but honestly, be for real. Be for real. And when have we ever seen The Pluto in politics? When? I need someone to answer me quickly. Because XTIAN was really setting himself up for failure with this one, I'll be honest. Anyway, enter Project Paperwave. According to XTIAN, The Pluto is the one who introduced him to the money-making scheme that he was already in along with a third party known only as Brian. So, what is this paperwave we speak of? This article by Oprah News defines it as a cryptocurrency platform where you can trade system coins, also known as Stellar coins, and make quick money with a referral program that rewards multi-level marketing. In simpler terms, it's a pyramid scheme. After much convincing by his political strategist, XTIAN was sold. So they started working together and they were doing well until their website went down and eventually crashed. People began to be suspicious, and as a result, they reported them to Safaricom, who then froze their accounts because at this point they're using Safaricom as their pay service for their website. XTIAN, being the face of the project since he promoted it the most and he's the one with the bigger name, caught all the heat. The Pluto and his associate Brian were nowhere to be found. Keep in mind that all this was happening during the time he had launched his electoral bid. I cannot even imagine the stress. XTIAN further alleged that The Pluto had tried to steal his property investment idea. But The Pluto denied everything that XTIAN said. Of course he did. According to him, after the site issues, the money had been reversed to the owners and at the same time, he was seeking the necessary paperwork to keep collaborating with Safaricom. But the procedure was taking too long to happen, and by that time, their reputation with the public was already ruined, so they decided not to revive the business. Anyway, there's his side, XTIAN's side, and the truth, so we may never really know what exactly happened. That's until more people come out with their experiences of being scammed by the Pluto, then maybe we can know the real truth. Until then, this remains to be nothing more than a feud. For me at least. So, what's our veteran social media guru up to these days? Well, he's still running his crowd property business and selling land in Malindi. He seems to have revived his Toboa series on Instagram, and as previously mentioned, he currently hosts the Tukosesh podcast on YouTube. Could this be his comeback? Who knows? Will he ever be able to go back to or even exceed his past influence? Maybe not, but there's no denying that for the time he was on top of the digital food chain, he changed the game and he deserves his flowers. With that being said, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the Rawpod on Instagram at @the_Rawpod, and don't forget to follow me as well on my socials on Instagram at _Renee_Were, on Twitter at Were_Renee, and on TikTok at Renee_Were. Also, don't forget to share this episode and hit me up when you feel that you have some content ideas you would like to share. Stay tuned for the next episode and let's get real and raw right here on the Rawpod with me, Renee Were.